Yes. So I want to just to make it clear, I am not a member of any political parties or any other movement. I'm just working in Doctor Without Rights. It's just a movement we started in 2006, and we're still working until now. So I will start my speech roughly. I will speak generally first, and then I will speak about the 28th day of our strike second. So January the 25th of 2011 was marked as the start of the 18 days of mass protests that caused President Hosni Mubarak to step down after 30 years in power. The Egyptian revolution came as a surprise to many, both inside the country and abroad. But the country had actually been witnessing a sharp increase in the strike and protest since the beginning of the millennium, due to the acceleration of new liberal policies adopted by the Mubarak regime and was really accelerated since 1998. For example, in 2001, a wave of student protests took place inside the Egyptian universities in support of the second intifada in Palestine, and had a radicalization effect on hundreds of thousands of young Egyptians. In 2003, more protests erupted, and against the US invasion of Iraq, and where the first protest in decades to take place outside the universities. Usually before 2003, most of the protests was inside the university. We couldn't go to the street. It was really hard to go out. So this was the first one to go outside the university. Around like 40,000 protesters gathered in Tahrir Square and were able to occupy it for 12 hours. Then the security forces attacked them. In 2004, a group calling itself Kifaya held its first silent demonstration, which was staged several protests against the regime. So from 1998 to 2004, there were over 1,000 worker collective actions. To mention a few, in June 2004, an Egyptian-Spanish asbestos factory were forced to close down by the government after pressure from the International Labour Organization and other union and non-governmental organizations. The workers who had been let to go without pay camped outside the factory and remained there for over 9 months. Later, in July 2005, some of them occupied the headquarters of the Egyptian Trade Union Federation and pressured them to support their demands. Another significant strike was the one organized by tax collectors in 2007. They were protesting against their work conditions. The strike lasted for 3 months, and victory was achieved within 11 days. Sit-in in downtown Cairo in front of the minister cabinet. Yeah. So due to the peak of rise of food prices in 2008, Egypt witnessed an explosion of workers' strike. One of the biggest took place in industrial city of Mahalla, where workers staged strike demanding national minimum wage because of the increase of food prices. Protesters in Mahalla, as well as the coinciding solidarity protest held in Cairo, were attacked by security forces, and 2 workers were killed in 2009. More than 1,000 property tax collectors again staged a sit-in downtown in Cairo, demanding job reform and stop to the crackdown on their independence union. Also, the 6th of April movement was established, and the National Association of Front at this time. All these strikes and protests set the scene for the 25th of January revolution. So the first well-known wave of the Egyptian revolution was the 25th of January, but really the biggest protest and the biggest day was the 28th. But everyone knows the 25th as simple as the name of the revolution. So as we say, we believe that the accumulation of the strikes and the labor workers movement and these protests, they facilitated to the revolution. And actually, I can say that any of the political parties was really making any rule. As you know, in Egypt, we always had this National Democratic Party, which is the President Mubarak, the ex-President Mubarak was the head of it, and all other parties were just a skeleton, just to make shows. They are not really parties, or they don't have any good, a lot of members, and not really engaged with the streets. And even still now, even the new formed parties is still the same. Some of them, they're really active, but still we have this problem. We have really most of the parties not really engaged with the streets. So as I believe, actually the general strike in the 18 days of the revolution, this is the main cause of the Mubarak to step down. So, and also the revolutions are always continuous and connected and are a part of the human nature. So the human express his feelings with fear, anger, or whatever, and also the society has feelings and they express it in many forms, which the revolution is one form of expressing this anger. And there is no way at this point to stop the continuous revolution still happening in Egypt. And I also believe that the political parties before and after the revolution has rather been used to contain the situation by the authorities. The true leadership of the revolution are small groups and aggregations such as April 6th Movement and Tax Collector Syndicate, Kifaya, the National Association for Change, and some independent individuals, some activists. There is no main leader. There is no part of the political parties. The doctor strikes has played a part in the lead up of the revolution. In 2008, we tried to hold a strike after gathering. We had a general assembly. We usually have a general assembly in March every year. So we have the new interns, and they will start to be a member of the syndicate. So in 2008, 4,000 doctors in the general assembly, and we could make a march from the syndicate to the parliament. And we had the decision from the General Assembly to start a strike. At this moment, we had no elections from in the syndicate. It was also a big fight between the Muslim Brotherhood and the ex-regime in the syndicate for ages, and the regime stopped the elections in the syndicate in 1992. So we didn't have any elections for 20 years in the syndicate, and still we had the old board, mostly all the members from the Muslim Brotherhood, except the chairman. He was from the National Democratic Party, and he was also a member of the parliament for like 20 years maybe as well, and he was also the head of the health committee in the parliament. So after this gathering, and we had a march to the parliament, we decided to strike, but this strike was oppressed by the chairman and the National Democratic Party, and they cancelled it against law. So in the syndicate, we have the General Assembly is the highest authority, which means the General Assembly means all members of the syndicate, and then we have the board. We have the board is law authority, And at this point, the board canceled a decision taken by the General Assembly. This is totally against law, but they did it, and we couldn't really do anything about it. So we had a sit-in for 10 days in the syndicate, and after 2 months, they gave us 300% raise in salaries, and they increased some of the financial wages. So since 2007, we organized repetitive demonstration asking for better wages, better work condition, increased health budget. If you don't know, the health budget in Egypt is 4.8%, which is like the minimum in any country is 15%. If you measure it by the national domestic income, our budget is like 1.6. And the lowest or the minimum accepted in any country is like 5 to 6. So we have a big gap. We have a really big problem. Most of the budget is going to the police, is going to the army. So after the 25th of January, Dr. gathered and organized another strike. In 2011, in May, we could have 2 days of strike, partial strike. We didn't get any of our demands. The SCAF was ruling at this party. We had many meetings, many promises from the SCAF and from the ministry, but nothing was achieved. We just could have a good network as a movement. We could have a good network in all over the hospitals, which enabled us to start another strike in 2012. So our biggest strike started in October, the 1st of October 2011. 80% of the hospital participated at this strike. So the story starts. The story of this strike started with a Facebook group. We didn't start the strike. We didn't call for it as a movement. We found a Facebook group called the 1st of October Front. It was a front formed by fresh graduates, fresh graduate doctors. And we started to communicate with them in May 2012. I went to the first meeting with them as a representative of our movement. Also, the Muslim Brotherhood. They were member of our movement before the revolution. We had few members of Muslim Brotherhood in our movement, which they really quit our movement after the revolution, and they started a new movement called Doctor for Egypt. The same way happened with Kifaya. Muslim Brotherhood was a member of Kifaya, and they left after the revolution. They were a member of the National Front for Change, and they left. They were a member of everything, and they were demonstrating with us, maybe faking support. I don't know, I'm not sure. But they really left any movement after the revolution, and they started their own movement. They also had what we call the sleeping cells. They had members in everywhere, but they don't call themselves and they don't define themselves as Muslim Brotherhood, but they were really secret members, and now they are forming parallel leagues and parallel movement in every union, in every hospital, in every university. So we started the first meeting with them, and also the Muslim Brotherhood movement participated in this meeting. So this young front of doctors, they wanted to have a complete strike. Complete strike means shutting down all the hospital. No emergency service is not accepted by ethics, is not accepted by laws, not accepted at all. So we were trying to convince them that we can never have a general strike, and we have rules and we have ethics to organize any strike, which should be only partial strike. We can only stop the non-emergency services, the cold cases, the outpatient, but we can never stop any emergency service. So, and the Muslim Brotherhood at this point, they were really agreeing with us, and they were trying to contain the movement. And another meeting held, and we could convince this front to change their opinions. But we didn't really agree on the date, the 1st of October, because as you know, we had the new presidential elections, and Morsi started maybe in August to be the president, and he has this slogan and this project called Nahda project, which we don't know anything about it now. And he said that he will have the first 100 days of, he had a small plan to reform 5 main things in the country, such as traffic, security, and other stuff. We were not part of this as a health. He was not in the priority. And I can see this 100 days he put, it was like just a pilot project for his main, I could see it like a pilot project for the Nahda project, but really in the 100 days, it will end like by the end of October. So we tried to convince the front to change the date from the 1st of October by the 1st of November, but we couldn't. So we called for a emergency general assembly, and we had this general assembly in the 21st of September. A lot of doctors came, mostly independent doctors. They are not members of our movement. They are not members of MB, mostly young doctors. And we had a decision to start an open partial strike on the 1st of October. And we came to a point who should run this strike, who should be responsible. We don't trust the board. We had many bad experiences with them. So we said to the General Assembly as a movement, we suggest that we run this strike as a movement, and we give names of our members all over the country, and this will be the committee which will run the strike. At this moment, the General Board left the General Assembly without anything, and they shut the electricity, and they took the microphones, and after they left, there is still 1,200 doctors still in the room, and they said they will never leave, and they decided that we should run this strike. So if I give you, if I can tell you, we have in Egypt, we have a syndicate in every governorate, a doctor syndicate in every governorate, and we have the general syndicate, which represent all Egypt. We had the elections, the first election in 20 years in October 2011. We were running in this elections as our movement with other small movements on one list called the independent list. The Muslim Brotherhood was running with another list called Doctors for Egypt list. The Salafist also was running this election in some syndicate, in some governorates, not every governorate. So we have mainly 3 lists: the Salafist, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the independent list. We could have almost 60% of the seats in the governorate syndicates, but the general board, we only have 4 members out of 24 members. So it's like only 4, and the Muslim Brotherhood also has 20 seats, and the chairman also is from the Muslim Brotherhood. He's not a member, but he was running on their list, and just doing their strategy. So I can't say he's a hidden member or whatever. So after this decision of having a strike, the president assistant, he had a meeting with us 6 days before the start of the strike. We had like 2 hours meeting, and he were discussing the demands, and he gave promises that everything will be okay. And at this moment, Morsi, the president, was in the States, so he said that in 3 days he will answer. So 2 days before the strike, he said, he called us. We should have another meeting. He called us and said, we're still discussing. We can organize another meeting. And the second day, they had Morsi has had a meeting with the 7 health syndicates, like the doctors, the pharmacists, the dentists, and he gives them promise that everything will be okay. And the doctor syndicate representative there, the general, the secretary general, he said to the president that then we don't need a strike and we will cancel this strike. So in the 1st of October, we started the strike. So we were running the strike against the syndicate, against the ministry. Normally, we should run the strike against the ministry only, but at this moment, we had only the syndicate against us. So it started early the first day. We had our first report, and we could record that 80% out of the 80% of the hospital participated in the partial strike. And it was really funny because the ministry said only 2.5% of the hospital participated. It was clear that they were really lying to everyone. Despite this war, also another war against us was running in the media. They were saying that this strike is complete strike and is harmful to people, and people will be killed. And they were faking the first case that some girl was died because of the strike, which was really not true. So we had this problem with them, the media, the ministry, the syndicate. So all over the first 2 months of the strike, we had the percentage of participation as we record from 80% to 65%. The ministry was always saying it is blue 10%. The syndicate, the general board, the Muslim Brotherhood board were saying in the beginning it is 50 to 60%, and they didn't give any other report. We were only the only authority or the only information for most of the media, because we were giving a daily report about the situation in every governance. We're giving the percentage. We're focusing on the problems happening. So at this point, maybe after 20 days, less than maybe 10 days after the beginning of the strike, the syndicate sent letters and faxes to every hospital telling them that they are not part of this strike. For example, we have a lot of hospitals in Egypt. We have the health insurance hospital. We have the teaching hospitals. We have what is called specialized hospitals. So they sent to them a letter: you are not part of the strike, you shouldn't strike. And they sent to the central and general hospital, which is the main part of the strike, telling them that this strike, you can participate or you cannot participate. It is your decision. And they also take the case to the court. They sent to the court asking for them, is it constitutional to have a strike? It was really strange. A syndicate is asking the court, is it legal to strike? It was really funny. And the court replied after the end of the strike that it is illegal to strike. As you know, before the old constitution by Gamal Abdel Nasser is not legal at all to strike. And after the reforms in 1971, it was legal to strike. And there was, in 1985, I think, there was a strike in the railway workers, and they stopped the railway for I think 3 days, and this costed the government around $250,000 or something. And they took them to the Supreme Security Court, and they were accused with many accusations, and they want to kill them or to hang them. And the court decision was saying that the constitution says that it's illegal to strike, but Egypt signed agreements with the UN and other organizations in 1960, I think, and this was approved by the parliament in the 80s. So we have these agreements, the international agreements, that we have we can have a strike, but they didn't translate it into laws. So the laws saying you cannot strike, but the constitution as well, but the international agreements which were signed and approved by the parliament say this. So the courts and the railway workers said that they are innocent, and they set them free and asked the parliament to reconsider the strike laws, and didn't happen until now. So we still have the same situation. So after taking, so one of the biggest point of the strike was the decree by Morsi. Morsi had a constitutional decree in November. At this point, it was very polarization. We had a polarization environment everywhere, and the strike was really affected by this situation, because we had sit-ins and demonstration everywhere. Some demonstrations supporting this decree and some against it, and some people was calling for general strike everywhere. So at this point, most of the Salafists who were supporting the strike stopped the support and start to break the strike all over. So the percentage really dropped out to 40% all over the country. So we had this situation. The strike is really going down. Everyone is busy with this political situation, and and also our activists was part of the main political thing. So they were busy as well organizing a demonstration against the decree. So at this point we asked for an emergency general assembly, and it was on the 21st of November. So we had this December, I'm sorry, and the 21st of December, after 82 days of the strike, we had this general assembly. Most of the doctors was frustrated, depressed, because nothing was achieved. We had main 3 demands at the start of the strike. First, we could write a new law, administrative and financial reform for all the health workers. So our demand was to apply this law to increase the budget up to 15 in 3 to 5 years. We know well that it's not going to happen to increase from 4.8 to 15 in 1 year. It is almost impossible. So we said 3 to 5 years. But this law we wanted now, and we have a problem with the security of the hospitals. Most of the hospital was attacked. Even the field hospital during the revolution I was part of it, and we were attacked by tear gas. A lot of doctors was kidnapped. Some of them, the activists, was kidnapped by, I don't know, the intelligence, by security forces, by the SCAF, and some of them was jailed and were attacked in the field hospital, in most of the hospitals. So we want a force, at least a law for putting an end to these attacks. It is not accepted in a way, even in wars, to attack hospitals. Even the military hospitals, you are not allowed to attack it. So you can imagine a field hospital being attacked by the security forces and doctor being kidnapped. And we have, like, some of our members was kidnapped for weeks and they were tortured. It was really sad at this point, and still happening until now. So, with every demonstration or big protest, we form a field hospital, and we still having this problem, being attacked. So we wanted this law, so nothing was achieved. So everyone was really depressed, most of the doctors, and also some was turning against us, and some was really saying that we shouldn't have a partial strike. This is the main problem, that you're having a partial strike. And we didn't also have a partial strike. We called it a free health strike. Like, we're giving the outpatient services for free. Not only, we didn't really stop it in most of the hospital. We're giving all the most of the things for free. So we're not really shutting any service, but we were stopping the funds going to the ministry, because we believe every health service should be for free. So I give you some of the side stories of the strike. The Cairo syndicate is a branch of the syndicate in Cairo. We almost mostly all the members except two are from the independence movement. So at the first of the strike, the minister assistant was saying things against the strike and attacking the strike, and so we sent them for investigation. We asked them to come to come to the syndicate and to investigate this and say that this is a General Assembly decision, you shouldn't oppose it. And at this point, the General Syndicate run by the Muslim Brotherhood, it has a very strong statement saying that the Cairo Syndicate is totally wrong with this, and they apologized to the Minister Assistant. And the Minister Assistant sent us, maybe me and some other of the committee, to investigate in the ministry. We were punished. Some of us were really punished. Some of the activist doctors were transferred from a hospital to hospital. Some of them were their study program was cancelled. They cut some of their wages. So this is what happened. And the syndicate didn't support us. They were supporting the ministry. It was really strange. And in the Kahliya governorate, one of the Muslim Brotherhood doctors, he had a police. He went to the police and reported 3 of our activists that they attacked him and attacked the hospital. And still, I think they will take it to the court, maybe. So this is what's happening. And so as far now, what we could achieve until now is we raised the public awareness. Everyone now is having this word, 15%, the budget of health. Everyone is saying it, and we could really help in the new constitution. The new constitution, a lot of parties were against it. Some of them just against it because it was written by the Muslim Brotherhood dominated committee, and some of the parties were against it because they really don't agree with it. and everyone was calling us. What is your comments about the health articles? And everyone, the left and the right parties, was giving our opinion. They didn't build their own opinion. They would just take our opinion, and so this was really a big achievement. And everyone was saying that 15% is at least the minimum accepted percentage of health. So the public awareness and people was really supporting us. This is the big achievement, and we were called by many parties, left and right, to help them writing their health plan and their health strategies. This is one of the biggest achievement, which was not our demands. So the three demands now. The first one, the law. We had promises to send the law to the parliament. Now we don't have a parliament. We have something called Shura Council, and is still doing the parliament job. So until now, they didn't send the government or the syndicate didn't send the law to the Shura Council. So we tried to pressure with the political party. We formed a small political lobby, and the Wasat party, which is considered an Islamic party and right party, they agreed to take our law to the Shura Council, and last Tuesday they were discussing it. I don't know what is the progress, but still the government didn't agree and they didn't send it. So this is one of the achievements. I'm quite sure that they won't accept it now. Maybe they want to postpone it 1 year because they don't know what is the situation and how the next budget will be formed. So the other demand, which is increasing the health budget up to 15, we had promises. Nothing is happening until now. We will see in May. We had promises it will be increased up to 7%, and every year they will increase it 2%. So in 5 years it will be 15%, which is the minimum accepted. By the way, Egypt is part of what's called Abuja Declaration, signed in 2001. It was signed by many countries, many developing countries, and this agreement was in the United Nations saying that all countries, they should work to increase the health budget up to 15 in 10 years. So according to this, we should have 15% budget in 2011, and we're still now in 2013 and still 4.7. So we hope they will just do it. And they also sending a new law for the security, and they formed a fake skeleton for security, for police, health police. Yeah. Yes. So this was the story, and we have another General Assembly in March, so we don't know what is going to happen. Maybe we will have another strike, we don't know. And I want to thank everyone for attending, and thank Professor and Kristian, who was really very active and was participating in every event, like everyone, the only blonde non-Egyptian. And some of the people think he's a spy, and everyone is coming. Do you know him? Yes, I know him. He's not a spy. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you for coming. And also we should mention that Amer became a father 2 days ago, so it's amazing that he's even here. We're happy that you could make it anyway. My name is Kristian Kindt. and as Bjørn Olav Utvik said, I'm a master's student here in sociology and connected to the New Middle East project. I'm writing a thesis about trade unionism and strikes in Egypt after the revolution, and I will comment for about 10, maybe 12, 13 minutes. I have two main goals with the comment, one mostly directed at you and one directed at you. The first is I will try to sort of contextualize the doctor strike and also the strikes going on in Egypt in workers' role in democratization processes in general, and what are the effects of these strikes on the political situation. Does it have an effect at all, and is it positive or negative? That's for you. And for you, the second goal is, as you said, many of your colleagues were skeptical of my intentions there. They really couldn't make sense of that an otherwise normal Norwegian person would come to Cairo and talk to doctors about strikes just for a thesis. It really didn't make sense to them. And at times it didn't make sense to me either, so it's completely understandable. But my second goal is therefore that what I will have to say, that you can bring that back and say that, yes, he is actually just a normal master's student and using this data for more or less interesting research and nothing else. So the doctor strike that Amer talked about is one of the longest strikes in Egypt's history, starting in October and ending in December. But it's not an isolated event. It's a part of a trend, really. As he said, we have a lot of strikes in Egypt going on now, starting from 2004. But really, after the revolution, it has exploded. You had, in 2011, around 800 strikes, and even more in 2012. And so this sort of begs the question of, so what? What's the effect of this? How can we understand it? And in what way does it affect the political transition? And more specifically, are these strikes contributing in any positive way? Does it push Egypt towards a more democratic political system? Or do these protests just really ruin the political stability and sort of ruin the opportunity for reasoned and quiet political dialogue? In general, if we go to social sciences, there is a general agreement that strikes can have a positive effect on democratization processes. A well-known sociologist, Martin Lipset, wrote in a book called Political Man in 1960, and I quote that, unionism remains the most important unions remain the most important representatives of working people's class interest, and their existence continue to contribute to social democracy. And more recently, another famous researcher on labor issues wrote that the main goal of labor unions is to democratize industrial relations. That is, to give ordinary workers a voice in determining the conditions that shape their work lives. But even though the democratization is the goal of many unions, it's also clear that from history that strikes doesn't necessarily help towards democracy. There are certain conditions. So you have different theories trying to understand, under which conditions do trade unions have a positive contribution? And here you have mainly two trends. The one is so-called transiology theories, which are theories on democratic transition, very popular in the 90s especially. They say that trade unions can be positive, but really as long as they don't strike. What they should do is that the moderates within the union should go and sort of negotiate with the state and quiet down the radicals within their own movement, and also look above the narrow wage demands and economic demands and working conditions, and sort of see the political goal, the better of the nation. If unions manage to control the workers like this, then they can contribute positively to democracy. Another direction thinks that this is a way too conservative view and take a more radical approach and say that no, trade unions can be militant, they can strike and still contribute to democracy, but they can do so if they join larger national struggles, if they join big social movements that fight for other issues than just wages and working conditions. And the main example here is South Africa, where the trade unions became an important ally for the anti-apartheid movement in the 70s and 80s and actually helped to sort of oust the apartheid regime. And in that sense, these strikes contributed to positive democratic development. So then the question is, if your strike and the strikes we see in Egypt follow any of these examples, and sort of on the, by the look of it, I would say that they don't. I mean, first, the demands that you have, you could say that they're not really political at all. You know, as you said, it's higher wages, it's better working conditions, and it's more for the health budget, but it's really only to benefit the health sector. It's not the goal of like political goal, not a revolutionary goal, not at all. And you don't you don't have an ideology, as I said, not a political program. Actually, I remember you once told me that in the strike committee you have a rule that it's not allowed to talk about politics. You only talk about health-related issues. So this could be read in a way that, okay, you don't really care about politics, you only care about your own sector, and that way you don't contribute at all positively to the political transition. And if we sort of analyze it just by using these previous theoretical perspectives, we could conclude that no, this is really just more damaging than helpful in the larger picture. To look at the strikes this way, the doctor strike and other strikes, is possible, and it's a plausible argument, but I think it misses the main point. So I think that the case of Egypt, it absolutely challenges previous theories on this issue of how trade unions should behave to contribute to democracy. But rather than concluding that no, they don't contribute at all, I would say that they show sort of a third way in which strikes and workers actually can make a positive contribution. And I think I will divide that contribution into, you have a contribution on the political level, but also on an individual level. On the political level, I would say that what these other theories deem as your largest weakness, namely that you don't have a political program, you don't have an ideology, that is actually the biggest strength of your movement and also other trade union movements. Because by sort of defining out the political, the ideological agenda, you manage to focus on sort of the pragmatic, real-life politics. If you look at the political debate in Egypt today, it's a lot of quarrel between Islamists and anti-Islamists. You have a lot of polarization. Now the opposition with el-Baradei in front is going to boycott the election. And all attempts at or many attempts at discussing real issues is sort of killed in just ideological quarreling. And you don't get down to the issues. And here the trade unions, the doctors and others, as you said, contribute to put this in the public awareness. They remove the ideological stamps from it, but just say that this is reasonable politics. This is what we should be done. And then they force discussion onto real issues and sort of help having a more reasoned, which could help to have a more reasoned political debate. And also, because you don't have an ideological agenda, you manage to include many people in your movement. You told me that now the Salafists support you again. You have socialists, you have liberals, you have people who don't care about politics, and they all sort of fight for the same thing. They manage to cooperate, which for those who know Egypt know that that is a very rare thing. You know, it's not often that people from such different ideological standpoints manage to actually forget that and work together, which is a very important asset and something which, if it would be translated to other segments of society, it would be very positive for the political development. And also, you contribute very practically to policy. As you said, you're now writing the health policies of major opposition parties. And also, I know I studied transportation workers, and they're writing the labor policies of the Salafist parties, like very conservative Islamist parties. And they sit and write their labor policies that, yes, we should strike, that's okay, you know, all these things which Salafis traditionally have been very much against. But still, if all of the different trade unions follow these examples and actually contribute to the policies of the parties, they get more programs which are grounded in real-life experiences. And then, in the end, that will contribute positively. On the individual level, I think it's also an important contribution. I mean, if we are to be sort of strict, if, for example, if Lenin had seen your strike and your movement, he would probably say that this is a classic example of trade union consciousness, meaning that you really only care about your own material interest. The individual workers don't see sort of the bigger picture, that they are oppressed by a capitalist system that they should overthrow. They're only yes, I want higher wages. And also, not only doctors, but other people in transportation workers has also told me that workers never strike for anything else than money. You can't motivate the workers to strike for anything else than that. And that sort of leads you to the conclusion that, okay, the political awareness is very low. But if we look at the difference between before the revolution and now, when you talk to workers, you really see that there's a fundamental change. Not that they now sort of have a socialist or Marxist ideology in any way, but rather that they feel that it's their right to fight for what they want. Before, like many have told me that before it was useless, it couldn't do anything. It wouldn't help. I know that I was oppressed, but I didn't want to change anything, and it wouldn't have helped to try and change anything. But after the revolution, I feel that now we made the revolution to achieve social justice, and that means that I have a right to fight for social justice. So they feel that they have a right to sort of to claim what they want, and also the doctors' movement and other trade unions have given them sort of the platform through which they can do that. So you've given like individual workers have more agency, so to speak, now than they did before. They have they have a greater ability to voice their concerns and also be heard. And if every individual feels that they can affect their position in society, that's a very important contribution to a democratic society. But in the end, I'm just gonna a word of caution, so to speak, because it's easy to be interpreted, or many researchers in the field view that the higher the number of strikes, the better. Like, okay, you have 500 strikes this year, that's good, and you have 700 this year, that's even better, and now we hope for 2,000. But in the end, I think it's important to bear in mind that strikes are never the goal. To have more and more strikes should never be the end goal. It's just a means to an end. As one of the workers told me that a strike is like a nuclear bomb. You don't want to use it unless you have to, and it's going to make a lot of damage. And even though it's not fair to really describe the scene in Egypt as a nuclear war, it's clear that we can't hope for this level of conflict to continue. We have to hope that the number of strikes will go down. That the best thing is if workers feel represented, and if also the management can actually negotiate with them in an orderly fashion. And then, of course, if they can't get if they're not heard, they have to strike. But that's not the goal. The goal has to be to sort of to make agreement through negotiations and not conflict. In the end, while I was writing this thing, Amer sent me a note from Rabab al-Mahdi, who is professor in political science at the American University in Cairo. And he asked me she had written like a short note on her view on the doctor strike. And he asked me to read it as an introduction. And I realized that she was actually making the exact same point that I was making. So I decided to put it in the end. So and that's also for you, for those who haven't been paying attention at all, you can pay attention now for 40 seconds, and you will get really the gist of my talk. So here's what she wrote. Since the beginning of the Egyptian revolution in January 2011, the world's focus has been on Tahrir Square. And while the square and the millions of people's marches have a lot of significance, many other events that equally shaped this revolution have went unnoticed. Among these events, and for me, one of the most important struggles during the past year, has been the physicians' strike, through which I got to know Dr. Amr ElShora. As an activist and as a political scientist, I believe that the physicians' strike marked a very important step for moving our revolution forward toward what Egyptians went out to achieve in 2011. It was bringing the demand of social justice back to the forefront, while Egyptian politicians were overly engaged in elitist and minimalist fight about identity politics. The demands of doctors for better pay, better working conditions, and increasing budget allocations for public health expenditures were demands that affected Egyptians at large and related to their daily lives. Unlike futile debates that the political elites were engaged in about the nature of the state, the doctors were pushing for more tangible material changes in policies and priorities of this state. I do believe that the importance of the doctors' strike surpasses even reforming the health sector, and that it actually can help set the public debate and struggle around real-life issues and translating the demands of the revolution from being chants to actual policies. So, thank you, and good luck.
Thank you.